Welcome to the Pet Abuse and Domestic Violence Training video through A Woman's Place, or AWP. This presentation will begin with an overview of the training and the training objectives. We will then briefly review A Woman's Place, including the services and resources that we provide. Next, we will move into learning about domestic violence, pet abuse, and how to identify warning signs of both. Lastly, we will discuss how to be an advocate against domestic violence and pet abuse. AWP believes that this training is important because we know that pets play an essential role in the household and can provide a sense of unconditional love, safety, comfort, and joy. However, we also know that pets are not immune to domestic violence. As an overview, during this training, you will 1. Learn about A Woman's Place, including our mission, services, and other supports and resources that we offer in the community. 2. Learn about domestic violence and its connection to pet abuse. And lastly, 3. You will become empowered to be an advocate against domestic violence and pet abuse while learning how to access AWP and community resources. An abusive home isn't just dangerous to people. Pets suffer too. This training will attempt to empower individuals to advocate against pet abuse and domestic violence through 4 key objectives. Objective 1. By understanding the different types of abuse experienced by domestic violence survivors. Objective 2. By understanding how pet abuse is related to domestic violence. Objective 3. By understanding warning signs of both domestic violence and pet abuse. And Objective 4. By understanding how to successfully apply principles of advocacy. Let's begin with an overview of our organization, A Woman's Place. AWP is Bucks County's only domestic violence organization, serving anyone and everyone surviving domestic violence in our county. This includes women, men, transgender and non-binary individuals, children, teens, and families. AWP is a community-based social change organization committed to empowerment and ending intimate partner and domestic violence for all. AWP envisions a society where all individuals are safe in their relationships and can flourish. The programs, services, and decision-making at all levels of AWP are rooted in and guided by the following values: courage, creativity, equality, integrity, respect, and social justice. A Woman's Place recognizes that anyone can experience domestic violence regardless of race, ethnicity, class, gender, sexual orientation, ability, age, language, or culture. As such, all services, programs, and resources provided by AWP are available to any survivor and advocate, regardless of background and identity. We also recognize that domestic violence is not a private issue. It occurs in a societal and systemic context. Therefore, AWP is committed to fostering social change as a primary means of ending domestic violence. We are also committed to providing trauma-informed, survivor-centered advocacy, and we are committed to rejecting all attitudes, social norms, and policies that reinforce oppression, powerlessness, and victimization. AWP has a variety of different services available to survivors and advocates across Bucks County. These include a shelter and safe housing, our 24/7 hotline hub, counseling services, legal services and victim response support, our education and outreach department, our volunteer program, and our thrift store in full swing located in Doylestown. The Community Impact Report reveals the prevalence of domestic violence in our county and the services that we as an organization provided during the last fiscal year. So, what exactly is domestic violence? Domestic violence is a pattern of behaviors that is used to gain control and power over another individual. Domestic violence can be a form of intimate partner violence, including adolescent relationship abuse and intimate partner violence later in life. Intimate partner violence is abuse in a romantic or previously romantic partnership. Domestic violence, though, can also be present in non-romantic relationships, including between siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, and other family members. There are 6 different categories of abuse that can occur, usually multiple being present in an abusive relationship at the same time. Here are some examples of the different types of abuse that can occur in an abusive relationship. Financial abuse, like taking out credit cards in your partner's name. Harassment at your partner's job, using the bank card or online banking info without consent. Verbal abuse can include threats against you, themselves, loved ones, and pets. Yelling, name-calling, aggressive language, slurs based on race, ethnicity, culture, other kinds of personal identities. Belittling, body shaming, public humiliation, or embarrassment. Physical abuse includes destruction of personal property, physical assault, stalking, pushing, pulling, trapping, yanking, or any other type of bodily harm. Sexual abuse can include refusing to stop when consent is removed, assault, harassment, rape, inappropriate gestures or touching, coercion, distribution of personal, nude, or partially nude pictures, tampering with or refusing to use contraceptives. Emotional or psychological abuse includes intimidation, gaslight, denial, blame or victim blaming, isolation from friends, families, or activities, jealousy to the point of possessiveness, and excessive criticism. Digital abuse can include monitoring or tracking activity, trolling, harassing, or stalking via social media, creating catfish or unauthorized accounts, or engaging in any other type of abuse digitally or with technology. A quote from Phil Arco, who is the chair of the Animal and Family Violence Prevention Project, describes a branch of criminology that emphasizes the correlation between abuse to animals and domestic violence. Humane criminology recognizes the significant overlap between abuse to animals and crimes against intimate partners, children, and other members of a household. Humane criminology describes the implications of animal cruelty, abuse, and neglect as a cause for human and societal concern due to their potential as indicators and predictors of interpersonal violence. Pet abuse can be considered a form of psychological abuse and can also indicate the presence of other forms of abuse. Here are ways pet abuse can occur in households and within relationships. 1. Abusive people threaten a pet in order to prevent family members from leaving or from disclosing violence to others. 2. Living in a household with someone abusive, dogs can face inhumane handling, excessive restraint, starvation, injury, and other maltreatment. 3. Nearly half of domestic violence survivors surveyed said they had delayed leaving or returned to an abusive situation out of fear for their animals' welfare. 4. Abusers are likely to weaponize and exploit their partner's emotional attachment to pets. Dogs are also the pets most frequently left behind when the survivor cannot find a pet-friendly domestic violence shelter. This staggering statistic reinforces the prevalence of pet abuse in domestic violence situations. As many as 8 out of 10 women entering domestic violence shelters say their abuser threatened, harmed, or killed a family pet. AWP understands that pet safety can be a barrier for survivors needing to leave the home, so we work with local organizations to provide temporary care and shelter for pets. Now that we have reviewed the different types of abuse and how pet abuse occurs in domestic violence situations, we will begin to discuss the principles of advocacy. On the next slide, you will be invited to watch a video of the security footage taken from a veterinarian office showing how staff responded to a victim survivor asking for help. As you watch this video, consider what warning signs are present and how safety and support were provided. Content warning. The next slide does not show any graphic imagery or abuse. However, it does show real footage of an actual domestic violence intervention. As you watched the video, what were some warning signs that you identified? Signs of abuse can be present in animal behavior, animal physique, and the behaviors of the pet owners. Signs of animal behavior to consider include overly submissive behavior, whimpering, whining, urinating, limping, or complications from previous injuries. Overly protective of one owner or exhibiting aggressive behavior to protect that owner. In the video, did you notice how the dog interacted with the woman owner versus the male owner? Signs of animal physique to consider include bruises, cuts, scars, matting, malnutrition, fractures and or open wounds, a pattern of similar injuries, and injuries that are inconsistent with the explanation given. Signs of owner behavior to consider include clothing that's inconsistent with the weather or the environment, surveillance or controlling behavior from one partner, aggression or impatience toward the pet. In the previous video, did you notice that what the woman was wearing and how she pulled down her sunglasses after she gave the veterinarian the note? Did you notice how her partner watched her from the doorway, surveilling her movements? When considering how to advocate or if advocacy is needed, follow these simple steps. Number 1, establish safety. Make sure the environment and situation is safe for the other person. In the previous video, the woman left the room and wrote in a place that was safe a letter that she gave to the veterinarian. The veterinarians made sure that they maintained that safe environment. Number 2, ask questions. If you notice any warning signs of abuse, ask questions while making sure to maintain safety. Number 3, provide resources. If domestic violence is confirmed, resources can include law enforcement and AWP advocates like we saw in the video. But best practice is to have information about domestic violence available for anyone to access if needed. 4, follow-up. This can include a follow-up phone call checking in with a recap of any observations you made during the visits or any discussions that you may have had, giving them the opportunity to further a conversation. Ending domestic violence and pet abuse is a community issue. As part of a coordinated community response, we can rely on other community resources to offer support and advocacy. Other community resources include us, A Woman's Place, your local vet office, your local law enforcement agency, and a pet housing databases for domestic violence survivors. Thank you for participating in AWP's training on pet abuse and domestic violence. If you would like a certificate of completion or a proof of attendance, please use the email provided, jcraig@awomansplace.org. Thank you again.